Good evening and welcome to the news roundup for Monday, January 16. I am Abigail Smythe. Among the stories in this evening's newscast, the body of man found in Bridgeport, Portmore, $80 million worth of cocaine seized at Kingston Terminal, bartender shot and killed in Manchester, 2 men shot and killed in West Kingston, St. Elizabeth's most wanted man surrenders to the police. In business, the Bank of Jamaica intervenes in foreign exchange market for the second time. In the region, Trinidad and Tobago to elect its 7th president this Friday. Further overseas, hundreds of emergency personnel resume search and recovery mission in Nepal following Sunday's deadly plane crash. And in sports, Cavaliers sit on top of the Jamaica Premier League chart.
Teach them! Always make sure the message reach them!
Now for the news in detail. The Narcotics Division of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, has confirmed that the cocaine seized at the Kingston Freeport Terminal on Saturday has an estimated street value of $80 million. That's over 12 billion Jamaican dollars. Over 1,500 kilograms of the illicit drug was seized during a multi-agency operation at the port on Saturday. Reports are that about 3 a.m. a search was conducted and the illicit drug was found concealed on a cargo vessel that arrived from South America. Detectives from the JCF Narcotics Division, as well as personnel from the Jamaica Defense Force, JDF, and the Jamaica Customs Agency made the discovery. The JDF has also revealed that their Maritime Air and Cyber Command and the Support Brigade's Military Working Dog Company collaborated on the cocaine seizure. No one was arrested in connection with the find. Fraud squad detectives made arrangements to begin questioning an NCB employee today. The NCB employee is detained in connection with a multi-million-dollar fraud racket at the Oterias branch of the bank. The woman is said to be assigned to the NCB's wealth management arm, NCB Capital Markets Limited. The 35-year-old wealth advisor was detained last week for allegedly defrauding $30,000 or nearly 5 million Jamaican dollars from the account of a customer. Her attorney, Bert Samuels, said charges are likely to be filed against his client. It's alleged that between July and October last year, the NCB employee forged the signature of a customer on a debit instrument and thereafter debited his account and redirected the proceeds to her account as well as the accounts of other parties. Investigators have indicated that the amount of money involved in the alleged fraud could increase as an extensive audit is now being conducted by NCB. The body of a man was found in Bridgeport, Portmore, St. Catherine, Sunday morning. According to the police, the body, which is still unidentified, had what appeared to be gunshot wounds. It was reportedly found in a gully between 11 and 14 Autumn Avenue. Reports are that around 7:50 p.m. on Saturday, residents reported hearing explosions sounding like gunshots. And on Sunday, shortly before 8 a.m., the residents stumbled upon the body and called the police. Lawmen who responded discovered the body lying face down with several gunshot wounds. The police say the body is of a dark complexion, about 5 feet 8 inches tall, and clad in a gray and yellow t-shirt, black pants, and black shoes. The police say several spent shells were found at the scene. An alleged gunman was shot and killed by the police during a robbery at a supermarket in Savannah Lamar, Westmoreland, Sunday morning. The Savannah Lamar police say about 4 a.m. a team of officers responded to reports of a break-in at the This One Wholesale located along Lewis Street in the town. Further reports are that on arrival they were greeted by gunfire from 2 armed men. The fire was returned and the police say the unidentified gunman was fatally shot and a firearm seized. The other man escaped on foot. And a man was shot and killed in Tivoli Gardens, West Kingston, Sunday afternoon. The dead man has been identified as 37-year-old Nico Francis, otherwise called Frasman, a shopkeeper from Bustamante Highway, Tivoli Gardens. According to police reports, about 12:50 p.m., Francis was sitting along the sidewalk grooming his hair when he was pounced upon by men traveling in a white Toyota Axio motor car. Police say the men opened gunfire at Francis, hitting him in the upper body before making their escape in the direction of Industrial Terrace. Residents assisted Francis to the Kingston Public Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. And still in West Kingston, 5 minutes before the Tivoli Gardens attack, Abu Futa Lee Pennycook, a vendor from Craigtown, Kingston 12, was shot dead by gunmen on Orange Street. Police say the killings are not related and they have not yet established a motive for either of them. Quick action by the St. Catherine South Police prevented serious injury and possible death Sunday morning after the home of a businessman was shot up and set ablaze in Sukaba Pen in Old Harbour. The businessman was unhurt. An investigation has since been launched into the suspected case of arson and shooting. It is understood that around 12:15 a.m., the businessman was awoken by a loud noise outside his house. He got up and saw smoke coming through his bedroom window. He made checks and realized that a section of the living room and veranda were on fire. He also heard several explosions sounding like gunshots and was unable to leave the burning dwelling. The businessman managed to summon the police, who arrived and rescued him from the house. No motive has been established for the attack. The St. Andrew South Police are now probing the murder of a 17-year-old windscreen wiper early Sunday morning. He has been identified as Ricardo Brim Abraham of an Olympic Way address. It is understood that Abraham was shot and killed about 12:30 a.m. along 2nd Street in Bell Rock, Cockburn Gardens. Explosions were heard and the police were summoned. On their arrival, Abrahams was found lying in a pool of blood with what appeared to be gunshot wounds to his head. He was rushed to hospital, where he was pronounced dead. A 60-year-old man was stabbed to death following an incident at the Whitehall Cemetery in St. Mary on Sunday. His nephew is said to be on the run. It is understood that the incident reportedly occurred at the funeral of the nephew's daughter. Police identified the deceased as Marvin Watson from Huddersfield in the parish. Police reports are that around 4 p.m., Watson was at the funeral of his nephew's young daughter when the dispute developed between them. Police say during the dispute, a knife was used to stab Watson in his chest. He was rushed to the Port Maria Hospital, where he died while undergoing treatment. The nephew fled the scene and is now being sought. The police did not give a reason for the dispute. A female bartender was shot and killed Saturday night in Land Settlement District in Manchester. She has been identified as 42-year-old Nakisha Harrison, otherwise known as Bumper. According to police reports, about 9:50 Saturday night, residents heard explosions in the area and alerted them. On their arrival, Harrison was found lying on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds. She was taken to the Mandeville Regional Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. No motive has been established for the killing. Meanwhile, in the St. Andrew South Police Division, about 12:15 Saturday afternoon, gunmen reportedly went to 4th Street, where they shot a 15-year-old boy. The victim has been identified as Ricardo Abrahams of 5 Olympic Way, Kingston 11. No motive has been established. St. Elizabeth's most wanted man, Dwayne Morrison, otherwise called Sharky, has surrendered to the police. Head of the St. Elizabeth Police Superintendent Kenneth Chin says Morrison was wanted for murder and was named as a person of interest in connection with several other murders, shootings, robberies, and break-ins. His surrender comes following several coordinated operations by the police, including targeted and snap raids and covert operations. The superintendent is appealing for the continued cooperation of residents in the parish. One man was killed and another injured following a gun attack near the Barnett Street police station in Montego Bay, St. James, Friday night. The dead man has been identified as Dwayne Dixon of a Montego Bay address. According to the Barnett Street Police, about 8:30 p.m., Dixon and several other persons were standing along a section of the street near the police station when they were attacked by at least two men. Dixon ran but was chased by the gunmen who shot him multiple times. He collapsed near a gas station. A male vendor who was sitting nearby was injured by a stray bullet. The Barnett Street Police rushed to the location and both men were taken to hospital where Dixon was pronounced dead. Prominent attorney Bert Samuels says it would not be feasible for Jamaica to remove the monarch as head of state while maintaining the UK-based Privy Council as the country's final appellate court. The government and opposition are now at odds on how to proceed with Jamaica's constitutional transition into a republic. The opposition has maintained that the process must also include accepting the appellate jurisdiction of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Mr. Samuels says that position is correct. In the meantime, Mr. Samuels says the proposed Constitutional Reform Committee should be comprised of non-political statesmen instead of politicians. Mr. Samuels says he foresees a dragging out of the process. And Chief Medical Officer, CMO, Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa McKenzie is warning Jamaicans that though there may be some level of natural immunity from COVID-19 in the population, the potential for a spike remains a real risk. The CMO made the comment while addressing the surge in new COVID cases in parts of Europe, the United States, and China. The CMO says while she's sure there is some amount of natural immunity present in the population, the protection appears to be short-lived. She says the sub-variants continue to pose a threat. The latest COVID variant has been identified as XBB 1.5. Dr. Bisesa McKenzie says though the variant has not been shown to cause severe illnesses, Jamaicans should pay attention to it. She says this is especially true because the country's vaccination rate continues to be below 30%. The CMO says while hospitalizations remain low, there are signs of an increase in the positivity rate. In business, the Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, has intervened in the foreign exchange market for the second time since the start of the year. The flash sale operation saw the central bank offering $30 million to authorized dealers and cambios. 5 banks and 5 cambios were successful in the auction. NCB, JMMB Securities, and JN Bank received the largest share at a settlement price of $152.36. On January 6, the BOJ sold $20 million to the foreign currency market. In the region, Trinidad and Tobago is set to elect its 7th president in a secret vote of its electoral college this Friday. The government's nominated candidate, President of the Senate, Christine Kangaloo, is expected to be elected as the country's new head of state. The opposition, United National Congress, UNC, has nominated senior counsel Israel Khan as its candidate. Khan, while agreeing to allow his name to go forward as a nominee, says he does not believe he will be elected to the office. The UNC has described Ms. Kangaloo, who is a serving member of the People's National Movement, PNM, as tribal and steeped in partisan politics. On January 6, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley announced his government would be supporting Kangaloo to replace Paula May Weeks as president. May Weeks has been serving as the country's head of state since 2018. If Kangaloo is elected by the Electoral College on Friday, she would be the second female to be elected president of Trinidad and Tobago. And on the international scene, hundreds of emergency personnel resumed a search and recovery mission in Nepal, South Asia today, following a deadly plane crash on Sunday. This has once again highlighted the dangers of air travel in a country often referred to as one of the riskiest places to fly. Of the 72 people on board, at least 69 were killed and their bodies recovered after a Yeti Airlines flight crashed near the city of Pokhara. A district police chief superintendent said the chance of finding survivors was extremely low as workers used a crane to pull bodies from the gorge. The search continues for 3 others who are missing. The crash is the worst air disaster in the Himalayan nation in 30 years. And according to data from the Aviation Safety Network, it is also the 3rd worst aviation accident in Nepal's history. Experts say conditions such as inclement weather, low visibility, and mountainous topography all contribute to Nepal's reputation as notoriously dangerous for aviation. In sports news, in the Jamaica Premier League, Cavaliers sit on top of the chart after clipping Portmore United 2-1 at Stadium East on Sunday. In other JPL matches, Humble Lion beat Chapelton 3-0, Montego Bay edged Falkland 1-0, and Malines and Harbourview ended their match 0-0. And on the international scene of sports, Khadija Bunny Shaw capped a brilliant Sunday in Britain for Jamaica footballers when she scored the only goal of the game as Manchester City won their Women's Super League match 1-0 against West Ham. And in the Men's Premier League, Chelsea edged Crystal Palace 1-0, Newcastle clipped Fulham 1-0, and Arsenal defeated Tottenham 2-0. And that's it for your news roundup for today. I am Abigail Smythe. See you next time.